All right. Good morning. We are live on Facebook today with Susan Greif. She is a creative transformation expert, and we're going to be talking about boundaries for women. So, Susan, with your clients, what kind of boundaries do you find yourself teaching most often?
Well, first, I want to thank you for inviting me to speak with you. I appreciate it, and I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation. So, with my clients, boundaries. So, is usually whether it's parental boundaries, whether it's relationship boundaries, and it's about protecting yourself, and yet allowing things in that are good for you. So basically, like, detoxing the negative and receiving positive through these boundaries. So my boundaries are not really just solid, they're more porous, kind of like our skin, We have to excrete the negative toxins from our body, and yet we want to receive the positive stuff from the exterior.
That's wonderful. And thank you for saying, and let me first say hello, good morning. I jumped right in there, didn't I? I'm so happy to be talking to you today. Can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself as a creative transformation expert? Who are you and how did you come into this work?
Hi, I'm Susan Greif, not Grief, although a lot of people think that's a great way to remember what I do. So either way works for me. But so I help women find emotional freedom from anxiety, depression, trauma, relationship issues. I use the creative, expressive, and the healing arts, meaning art, movement, journaling, energy work, meditation and breathing techniques. Art makes our thoughts and emotions more perceptible, more tangible, so we can actually see what's in our subconscious and bring it to light. And we can become awakened to what keeps us feeling powerless, panicked, paralyzed, and in pain. And then I propel them to take actions to make shifts in their lives. And shifts are so important in our lives. For one reason, especially, is because every living organism, there's 7 characteristics of every living organism. One of them is adaptation. If we can't adapt, we die physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So we must adapt. We must shift. We must change so we can lead a healthier, happier lifestyle.
With your clients, how do you decide what kind of art to pursue as you're uncovering the unconscious?
Well, it's really basic drawing is really what it is. I mean, I have the ability to look at people's drawings and, just by the strokes they use, the medium they choose, the colors they choose, the placement on the page, the size, what's missing, what's central, what's tiny, what's big, what's up high, what's up low. They're all different clues that I can see, and I'm also intuitive, so that helps figuring out the situation. And when a client comes several times, these drawings show patterns, just like in their journaling, which I have them do while they're away, between sessions. Because when we go to a talk therapist, you can lie and you can admit, and you may not even remember certain things. So, and most important is, like, you tend to vent over and over again at talk therapists, and you walk away for the week, and then you don't think about it, and you come back and you vent about the same thing over and over again. I'm sure a lot of your, the people listening, and myself who've been to talk therapists, I'm just rambling on. Like, it's like venting opposed to willing to receive. When we go, it's like we talk, but we're not receiving. So that's why I like to give them assignments. So by the end of the week, they've been really thinking about it, and then they can make the movement. They're held accountable for something.
So when you are in this process of transformation through creativity and creation, and you're looking at this creative work, how does the issue of boundaries kind of emerge in the conversation or the discussion with your clients?
Well, actually, I have some drawings here. I can show you if that's okay with you.
Oh, please.
Okay, so here is one client. So let me tell you before I show it to you. She was in a difficult marriage, and her husband was abusive, and he wasn't kind, but he was ill, and that's probably why he was so abusive. And she felt she needed to protect her children, but she herself was in such a dark place. So, for instance, you can look here how she felt. These are her children, and this was her husband, and here she was in this dark hole. But here's this big, massive warning boundary, you know, and there's, you know, black and red itself is anger and, you know, and rage that she had trying to protect her kids from her husband. So that's one form of boundaries, like something that comes between two people or things. Then there is this one. This is a woman. She was a child of Holocaust survivors. And this is a really interesting picture. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can. I see water and I see where people are looking. I see tears.
Right. So I'll show you. This was her as a child. And she's actually clothed. She's in the shower. And she has this big boundary here enclosing her. And the only opening space is between her and her sister, who's also crying. And this was her mother. And she was staring at her. She had these darting eyes and these little zigzags I'll share with you. And then this is her father facing the other direction. And he had no hands and no feet. So this actually was a drawing of her as a child survivor in the shower, crying with clothing. So what was her issue? She hated her mother. And because she would not let her shower without being watched until she was old enough to leave house. And we had a conversation, and it turned out that we had, you know, talked about it. Her mother was in Auschwitz during World War II. And we discovered her mother's job in Auschwitz was to clean out the gas chamber showers. And so I guess her mother had this fear of like, oh my God, something can happen to my daughter. So I have to be there for her. But it took her a while to internalize that. You know, you always have to understand and empathize with the other person in order to forgive. Mm-hmm. And of course, her father's facing the directions, no hands and no feet, saying like, sorry, I can't help you. You know, I can't help you. I'm unable. I don't have the hands. I don't have the feet. And I have my back to you. And he felt bad. But she, you know, so interesting because she ended up, her shower was such a negative, her bathroom has always been in such a negative space, like, you know, the dark curtains. And I know it's little, but one day she came in and she's like, we talked about like the negative and creating a positive. And you know, one day she sent me a picture of her new bathroom. She made it a sanctuary with the curtains up and plants and flowers. And so that was one of them.
All right, we are back live on Facebook with Susan Greif. I'm Jupiter S.L.U.T, Shameless, Luminous, Untamed Truth. And we're talking about the connection between art and boundaries. So we've got creative transformation expert Susan Greif here to show us some more of some of the kinds of work she does.
So there is a child that was brought to me, and she had anxiety and depression and so forth. And the mother brought her to me because she had a hard time with it. She had a very difficult time, you know, complaining. She's afraid of this and she's afraid of that. And so this child's always crying. So I think what I had a hard time trying to explain to the mother is that, you know, yeah, this is her reality. It might be silly to you, but it's her reality. And it's about accepting her reality. So she had these, all she mother wanted to do is make her daughter happy. So I did, I'll show it to you soon. I did an art project between mother and child. And this child drew the images that she was fearful about, you know, actually what the question was, like, draw something about yourself. So, you know, the child wrote all these fearful images and things that made her happy. And the mother drew what she did, her family, whatever. Then I had them swap the page around and add to each other's drawings. And what the mother did was she put on daughter's pictures of her fears. She put a huge happy smiley face right on it. Instead of acknowledging it, she continues to mask it in a way and make it smile. And then when I had them flip the paper around, the mother drew a big boundary between her and her daughter. So I'll show it to you. So this is the mother and daughter. So they're sitting opposite each other. So this was the daughters. These are her fears. And here's the mother, drew the very big happy face right on top. Like, be happy, don't worry. And she's not accepting her daughter for who she, you know, how her fears are, right? And then you have this one, the mother, and here, this is who she is. But then she created this line. This is a boundary line for her to deal with it. So what was so interesting, I didn't bring it with me. What was interesting, I told the mother to draw something about her childhood, you know, and she came back with a drawing and her brother was crying. And I said, well, you know, why is your brother crying? She's like, I don't know, but my mother used to get so angry that he was crying all the time. You know, we tend to recreate relationships over and over and over again until we see the pattern, and until we're really ready to make changes in our life and say enough is enough. You know, we just can't, it's enough. And I'm ready to make the change. You know, I have a lot of women, I have many women who come who are always in abusive relationships, and it usually starts with the father or the mother, but mostly the father, because they're trying to look for love. But this is only love they know, you know, the love at the, you know, there's this sensory, we have our sensory cells. And when we're babies, we're held a certain way. And what we do is there's 3 ways to hold your baby. One way is the normal, comfortable way. The other way is when it's too tight. It's very controlling, very in your space, it's not comfortable. And then there's the loose way of holding a child, where it's like the child feels neglected or abandoned. And that's also not safe. So those 2 unsafe ways of being held actually is stored in your sensory cells, your memory cells. And what this person who is controlling, a person who is, you know, on top of you, we tend to allow them in our space because we don't know that setting this boundary is normal, because we didn't have that norm. We knew, like, in my space is normal. If I get hit, it's okay because that's the norm. We don't get that. If you've been neglected, you're always going to feel abandoned. You're always going to feel like you're looking for love. You want to be held. You're looking for love. You don't feel secure in your life. So these are really important in understanding. And if we can go from this physical boundary, we also have to understand there is that psychological boundary where, you know, we don't know where to end something. We don't know how much bad food is good for, you know, how much bad food we can actually ingest, how much drugs, alcohol, sex, any shopping, whatever it is. Like we're always, you know, if you put on a belt when you eat, you feel there's a sense of boundary. I'm full. But if you wear those like leggings, you don't get that sense. So if you don't have an idea of boundaries, we can just continue to let go and continue to be in other people's spaces, or people come into our spaces.
So in your experience with your work, how do people stop recreating those same relationships over and over again? And how, if any role is that, where does boundaries fit into that?
Well, it's acknowledging it and acknowledging that you need to set boundaries and detox from people who don't respect you because that actually comes from within. If we don't respect ourselves, if we don't love ourselves, we're going to attract men or women who don't respect us or don't love us. So it's the law of attraction too. You know, we need to start loving ourselves, taking care of ourselves and understanding. So it's about self-empowerment, you know.
I think that's a really great, I think we're going to get deeper in this in
Okay.
one of our next one of our next questions, because what you said was, oftentimes this comes from our childhood. You described that client who had a brother who was always crying, or you say oftentimes we're recreating patterns we had with a father or with a mother. So just for now though, how, if your earliest patterning comes from the beliefs created with those, first few years with your parents, how do you go about creating what you don't already have inside that was the reason you were doing these same patterns over and over in your experience with your clients?
In my experience, my clients, I feel, I think one of the tools I use with one of my clients is we use the inner child method, when we, and to hear the negative thinking patterns and being aware of the negative thinking patterns and understanding that these are, there's triggers that come about. There's the words that manifest certain behaviors. And once we become aware, these words, these labels, these thoughts, these beliefs, it's all ancestral. It's not just ours. It's all ancestral. It can be generations back. I
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I just actually led an interesting, art workshop, or part of the retreat that I was in, where I offered art for daughters of Holocaust survivors who still hold on to the ancestral trauma their parents, had, during the war, and they're still in that mindset. And it's about releasing those thoughts and beliefs and changing it, because these thoughts are embedded over and over, and they become your own thoughts. And until you're aware of those thoughts, until you're aware of the behavior that was manifested from those thoughts, you can't change. But once you do, if you turn that light switch and change the thought, change your behavior, that automatically becomes your new thought, your new, process, your new, and that's through, meditation, that's through journaling, that's through, gratitude and affirmations, because, they say for every negative thought that was embedded in you, you have to repeat the opposite thought, the positive thought, 10 times. Until you start believing
or
it.
100
or 100. I'm saying for each time you say it, I'm not just saying one. It's like you bump into something like, oh, I'm so stupid. No, you're not stupid. It was an accident. It's okay.
Well, this was partly why I was so excited to meet you, because in my own life, the creative work that I've done has been so huge in uncovering the unconscious negative that I didn't know was there. I think most of us go around trying to be positive. And so we think we're succeeding at being positive, and the problem is that level of negativity is in the unconscious. And so I got really excited about talking with you, because you use the art to get to the unconscious so fast, bypassing all the talk that we do in our mind.
Just like one session, you see something, there's always an aha moment, which is great.
Yeah, that's really powerful. It's really exciting to hear the work that you're doing in the world. How do you set boundaries that are healthy versus boundaries that are holding you back? How can you tell the difference between the kinds of the good and the bad boundaries?
If it feels good, it's good. If it doesn't feel good, it's not good. That's what it is. It's just, we have fear, and there's this vagal nerve that runs from our head to our heart to our gut. And that's usually an alert when we're in fear mode. And we do have an issue sometimes listening to our heart and listening to our gut. And I think we need to learn to do that more, because, if it feels bad, it probably is. And if it feels good, it probably is good too. But there's always a limit, right? With everything in life, you know, you have the dualities, the opposites. And, you know, if you think about a seesaw, you know, one side down, one side up, like there's no balance. It's only when it's level. And usually when closer you come to the fulcrum, the center, there's more balance. So it's just understanding, you know, give and take, you know, giving and receiving. That's the other duality. You know, it's not about always giving of ourselves, it's also receiving for ourselves. So if there's somebody who's toxic in your relationship, we tend to need boundaries to protect ourselves. And if somebody is abusive verbally, you know, or emotionally or physically, you know, there is an issue there. And one of the boundaries for those who, let's say, receive emotional or verbal abuse, we have to understand that when they feel this way, it is their problem, their issue, not yours, not ours, right? Not our problem. Because if I did something, if I do something and somebody is triggered by what I did, you know, let's say I create a big mess and there's somebody with OCD on the other side yelling at me like, there's a mess, you have to keep things in order, you have to keep, because it's their need to create order in their chaos, where I don't need to do that. I'm okay with that. So I, in turn, sometimes would have said, oh my God, like what I did was wrong. I need to keep it in order. I did it was wrong. But it's not. It's like, I'm okay with that. It's their issue. If, you know, so they can call me, you know, they can call me names or whatever. I mean, we're talking about things that bother other people that we do, but what we do is not necessarily bothering us, it's bothering them. So what I usually do is I'll tell my clients, you know, we absorb their energy, we get upset, but instead of getting upset, you kind of like, I'm going to use my phone, but you know, it's kind of holding up a mirror to the person, because it really is a reflection of their stuff and has nothing to do with us. So we are protected and we don't absorb their negative energy. So if they come out with their upset, you know, and you know, I mean, those the one boundary, and then there's the boundaries of, you know, of toxins in the air, you know, things that, you know, the thoughts are toxic, right? You know, my parents' thought, you know, came down to me. It's like, wait a minute, that she labeled me. She labeled me to be, you know, whether it's lazy or stupid or worthless.
One of the ones that I get often, or that maybe I was aiming at with this question, is not trusting. Like, oh, she was in a bad relationship, she's broken, she doesn't know how to trust anymore. So I had been in some bad relationships, and as I tried to set boundaries in new relationships, new people, especially like if I was dating a guy, would be like, they would label my boundaries as bad and then tell me that I was, you know, trying to hold them accountable to old harms and not giving them a fresh slate or whatever. So I felt really confused about, this is resolved for me, but at the time I felt really confused about, how do I know, you know, sometimes people are like, you know, when you fall off the horse, you got to get back on. If you make the boundary of, I don't ride horses because once I fell off, you're limiting yourself, right? So how do you know when you're limiting yourself and you're not letting yourself, say, try new things or experience or grow or love or trust, versus you've created a boundary for yourself that's safety based and intelligent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with a horse, like, yeah, well, maybe it depends on whether or not you broke a leg, and if you need resting time, I don't know, right? But so, like, for you, how do you conceive of helping people if for whatever reason they're thrown into disclarity, if there's doubt about whether or not the boundary they have is legitimate? How do you help them find clarity on what's a healthy boundary and a not healthy boundary for them?
It's really about, you know, there's drawing and finding the patterns. There is journaling, finding the patterns, and to really understand, you know, the fear, the trust, like you said, is a trust issue, is a fear, you know, like how, you know, because I've been hurt before, or I've been, you know, this before, I don't trust this guy, or I don't trust this person. You know, I've been, you know, people have stolen from me, people have, you know, broken my heart, people, you know, it's a trust issue because you've been there and you have this preconceived notion that everybody is the same. You know, you're reflecting your issues on them, you know, so that's the opposite, you know, we reflect what we think on others as they reflect what they think on themselves. Does that make sense or not? Am I not making
What I'm hearing is get conscious, and the thing that's new that is emerging for the first time in this conversation is looking for patterns, and that is so
Right.
key. You're absolutely right. Finding the patterns is key to figuring out why these things are happening over and over, and what boundaries you need to change them,
Right.
or what boundaries are keeping you stuck in them.
Right. And the other thing I would like to add is that I think we also have to understand these people that have hurt us. They're put on earth in front of us for a reason. They teach us a lesson that we need to learn to make the change. So, you know, if a woman is always in an abusive relationship and she finds herself in the same abusive relationship, you know, they get angry at the men. Don't get angry at the men. You know, you say, thank you for this lesson that you're teaching me to not allow abuse, to have respect for yourself, to have understanding for yourself, having love for yourself, that you don't deserve people who abuse you. So if we, you know, we get angry, oh, these person hurt me. It's no, we allowed that to happen. It was our choice. And then you say, thank you for this lesson. From now on, I'm making a shift and I'm going to look for somebody who is not abusive, who appreciates me, who loves me for who I am, who accepts me for who I am. You know, and I think that's what it is. Like, we make our choices, but realize that people are put into our life is because they're here to teach us a lesson. Until it's kind of like, you know, the first tap is like naughty, you know, second is like smack in the face. The third was like, you know, it's like God sending these messages. The first one's like it says tap on the shoulder. The other one's a smack in the face. The other one's like pushing you hard. Like, wake up already, learn this lesson. So you're going to get that. And until you get hurt enough, unfortunately, or if you're evolve earlier on, you won't get as hurt. So we make the choice. You have a choice. Do you want to be with that person? Do you want to be with this person? It's up to you. You know, we're giving two choices in a lifetime. We are not given two choices in a lifetime. We are not choosing the day we were born, and we're not choosing the day we die. And everything else in life is a choice. Life is a journey. It's a choice that we make, and it's up to us to either move forward or get stuck in the same loop over and over again with a negative talk like, oh, you're stupid, you're idiot, you deserve, you know, being abused, you deserve hate, you deserve, you know, I'm worthless, you know. So that's the other thing, I'm worthless. So we throw you know, if we're taught we're worthless, we're taught we're trash, then we treat ourselves like trash. You know, give me your garbage, give me your toxic foods, give me your toxic people, give me your toxic drugs, give me your toxic, you know, allowing of, you know, of being just, you know, sleeping around and being disrespected by that, you know, one night stands over and over and over again because you're just looking for love and you're looking to fill your void. You're filling your void with, you know, with self-love.
So transcending that, we're becoming conscious, observing the patterns. These are the kinds of things that women and anyone can use to figure out what boundaries they need to create for themselves and others so that they can stop repeating those painful patterns. And I think it's really important to acknowledge how much the fuel of anger can be necessary to make us aware that the change needs to happen. We don't have to stay in the anger, but that can be a really important, like, anger is a really important feeling that says to us, red flag, you probably have a boundary issue here.
Right.
Now dig deep, look for those patterns, look where you've been unconscious, and look for what kind of changes, and don't maybe expect it overnight, but this is a seeking process, right?
Right.
And well, as you were saying before, these are inheritances, right? These are things that are sometimes even in our DNA. So it's not your fault. necessarily that you have these fears or that you have low self-esteem. These are things that you were taught in early childhood, or maybe even, are in ancestral inheritance.
Right. Right. So there's the new research on epigenetics. And epigenetics is, we used to believe that, our DNA, it is what it is. It can't change. Right. So recently they've learned that through epigenetics that now there are cell receptors under our skin. So we can be in an environment, and that sends messages to our DNA and to say, okay, this is a calm environment, this is a hostile environment. And if you're in this hostile environment very long, let's say people who are in the war zone, they become so alert. Their genotype actually changes to constantly be in stress mode, to constantly be high cortisol. What happens when you're stressed? Your muscles tighten. You breathe shortly. Your adrenaline is going all over the place. Your heart rate is beating. You're taking short breaths, and so in order to do the opposite, right, to create homeostasis in our body, we have to deep breathe, breathe deeply into our gut opposed to here. And in time with these breathing techniques, our bodies tend to relax. Yeah, there you go. Our bodies tend to relax. And if we, that DNA may have affected. I think I am a child of Holocaust survivor. So yeah, it has affected me. I am high alert, like, oh my God, something's happening here. Something happened, you ask child of survivors, like, what is the one thing they all have in common? They all have their passports ready to pick up and leave just in case. Because we're in war zone mode, and it's really interesting, but so we don't have the ability to we have survival mode. We are in high survival mode because that was inherited. But the baggage you carried is your baggage. Again, that mirror, right? It's your baggage. I'm ready to turn around and face my future of what my desires are, of what my needs are. And it's not selfish. It's about, we're given this body, our soul is sent in from, I say God, and other people might say, spirit or whatever, divine, is given to us. And we're borrowing this body, this vehicle for the soul. And I believe it will, come back until it is, recycled into its highest vibration. And
I like to think of that as when I need it to be, yes, that's your boundary, right? But on the other hand, not your baggage, as you're saying, right? And I'm gonna choose not to continue to carry that. I've been kind of thinking of it as kind of almost like a jawbreaker type baggage, where it was my mother's job to peel away the layer of no longer allowing physical violence, right? And then each my job has been to be unpacking what is emotional violence, what is emotional abuse, right? And so kind of being like, we can each only take so much of a step in our lifetime, and we're stepping towards freedom, we're stepping towards healthier relationships, we're stepping towards learning how to value each other as human beings more and more in each generation. So I like to think that growth is also passed down and inherited, and really honor the women who've come before me and for what they have done, even if what they weren't able to accomplish caused me so much pain. But those feelings are the tool for change, right?
Right. I mean, listen, they had negative baggage, but they do have positive. I think, listen, I inherited the gift of, of art, of compassion and empathy. I've inherited intuition. I've inherited, love and understanding. So I inherited that too, and be able to give and learn to receive. Well, it took me a while to learn to receive too. It's hard because as women in general, we're known to be nurturers. I mean, what is the first thing we play with as children? We play with our dollies. We feed them, we make nice to them, we dress them.
What was the number one thing? This is like a little extra question. What was the number one thing you did to learn to receive? Because I know that that's something that I'm really working on in my life. So what was for you the number one kind of most healing action you took to learn to receive better?
I think to say thank you when somebody complimented me.
Excellent.
And, you know, and that's something I always tell my friends, like, just say thank you. It's okay. Just say thank you. And, you know, and I hear from my friends like, oh, the complaints, like, find gratitude, you know, it's okay. It's okay to accept and to receive, you know, like as women, like, oh, your dress is lovely. Oh, this old thing, it's like your hair looks great today. Ugh, I didn't even do it. You know, I didn't color it. I didn't do it. It's like, you look beautiful. Oh, my ass is so huge. Like whatever it is, like we can't accept.
Yeah. Well, I think that I just bought the domain name, diminish.me. Because that's what we're taught to do. We're taught to diminish ourselves rather than receive as women. And that's so important. So I know in my work, what I'm helping women do is to get female entitlement, to stop, to be undiminished. That's why I chose undiminished.me. So that's really interesting that that's what you chose as your, just say, thank you. Just allow yourself to be fully full of your worth. That's beautiful. And so I'm going to, go ahead?
I was going to add something, but if you need to take a break, we'll take a break.
Well, we're actually going to head to closing. So please do add that.
So there is, if anybody's familiar with Dr. Emoto, he's this Japanese physicist, and he did this whole thing on water and the vibration of the water. And so what he did is he's taken 2 glasses of water, and at one point he played heavy metal, another point, a different glass, he played Beethoven. And what happens to the Beethoven, the water, when he froze it, the water's crystallized to gorgeous crystals. And the other one under heavy metal did not form. And he did the same thing with love and hate, where love, the water crystallized and hate did not. He did this with Mother Teresa, and he did it with Hitler. He took these 2 opposites, and anything that was positive, like thank you and gratitude and love, and the water crystallized to beautiful crystals. If anybody ever wants to see this, is in his book Message in the Water. And there's this fear of like what's beyond the birth canal. We don't know what's going on beyond the birth canal. We know what's cozy here, but I'm getting uncomfortable here. And for those women who are in a bad relationship too, I mean, know that, there's that fear of like, what happens if I leave, So the thing is that in that birth canal, you're kind of vacillating back and forth, like, do I not? Do I not? And this is actually called labor, right? This is work we need to put in to ourselves and allow ourselves to go through the process. Because what happens when you come out of the womb, you come into the light and you see more, you learn more, and you are being seen now too, and you are being heard. And I think it's important that we all need to help each other shine their light.
One of the things that I heard you say today was between epigenetics and message in the water. That's 2 different ways where you're talking about how changing the way you think changes the physical world, changes, where our genes, respond to our life experiences, and also shape our life experiences. We're 80% water. This is the kind of area where science is just starting to emerge with some sort of understanding. And it can really become, greater awareness on that can help us heal. So please send us your questions on boundaries, comment with your thoughts on these topics. And Susan Greif, where can we find you? What are your favorite social medias?
Well, you can find me on my website at artmendshearts.com. That's ARTMENDSHEARTS.com. You can follow me in Art Mends Hearts on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter. Check me out, LinkedIn. Connect with me, LinkedIn, at Susan Greif. And feel free to email me with any questions at artmendshearts@gmail.com, I'd love to speak with you.
And just for those of us who don't already know, what are you offering to the world as far as, if people want to work with you or if they want to find your work, how do they engage with what you do?
I'd be happy actually to offer a complimentary 30-minute phone call. I offer that to whomever would like to, ask me any questions. If you want to do a quick drawing and ask me to analyze it for you, I'd be happy to do that for a 30-minute phone call. Again, just email me at artmendshearts@gmail.com.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for me, I am Jupiter's Slut. That's Shameless, Luminous, Untamed Truth. I teach workshops on women's worth, and I'm an expert on female entitlement and the author of Masturbation Monday, a shameless experiment in self-love. You can find me at jupiterslut.com or email me, also info@jupiterslut.com. And you can check the links for my social media, but you can find me on Twitter and all those good places. And I'm offering next month a Women's Worth workshop, so you know what you're creating boundaries to protect. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye. Have a wonderful, well-bounded, and healthy week.
Balanced.